Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. It is Saturday, the 9th day of July, 2022. Clive Walsh here, inviting you to join me as we read our devotional thought for today. And who knows, the next 5 minutes can be so significant in your day as you take in this devotional thought, which is entitled, A Word to Fathers. And the verse today, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, which reads, Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Alistair Begg writes, In Roman society, a father's power was all-prevailing. As William Barclay wrote, a Roman father had absolute power over his family. He could bind or beat his son. He could sell him into slavery, and he even had the right to execute him. If ever a people knew what parental discipline was, the Romans did. Notice then that there Paul is not simply calling for the exercise of parental authority. Rather, he is both assuming its rightfulness and hampering it. His instruction is first negative. Do not provoke your child to anger. He urges fathers to exercise restraint in disciplining their children, lest they do more harm than good by exasperating them or causing them to become discouraged, resentful, or angry. How might we provoke our children to anger? Through selfishness, severity, inconsistency, unreasonableness, favoritism, nagging, fault-finding, failure to appreciate progress. Yet, such a daunting list shouldn't discourage us. Instead, it should remind us that this responsibility is entirely beyond us apart from God's grace. And yet, Paul's instruction is not only negative, but also positive. The verb bring them up can also mean nourish. There is something horticultural about it, a reminder that not only are we to rear our children tenderly, but also that doing so is no momentary task. Rather, it's a journey over many years. At the same time, this nourishment involves discipline, namely, discipline of Scriptures, by which the Father himself is conformed into the image of Christ, and instruction, which involves gently bringing God's Word to bear upon our child's mind so that their character is actually transformed. If you are a parent, how can you admonish such a task? It takes grace. It also takes patience. In stock market terms, parenthood is not day trading. It's long-term investing. It's amazing how a monstrous 4-year-old who is constantly treated with godly love and discipline can become a thoughtful and loving young adult by her late teens. So, if you are not a parent, pray for those who are. They need it. And if you are a parent, consider your own approach. How are you establishing parental authority in your home? In what way are you most in danger of provoking your children as you do so? How will you instruct your children in God's Word? And how can you see your own character being formed into Christ-likeness through the experience of parenthood? In all this, remember that parenting is an act of grace. We are to discharge our responsibilities faithfully, but you will be crushed if you do not remember that grace is sufficient to overcome any and every mistake, a truth to build you up and keep you on your knees. Great advice indeed. Keeping you on your knees, it will build you up as you keep seeking God as a parent for your children, and that you would demonstrate Christ-likeness by His grace in bringing them up in the admonition of the Lord. Well, that's the reading of our devotional thought for today, A Word to Fathers. And once again, the verse today is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, perhaps one to commit to memory. And for those of you going through the Scriptures, Your assignment today is a small book of Obadiah, as well as Acts chapter 8, verses 1 through 25. Clive Walsh here, asking God's richest blessings upon you today.